Lucy Powell, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Well, look, since Annie just raised the point, let's just start directly there. She's saying that she received or had received the winter fuel payment. She earns, or her income is just above £11,500, therefore she won't be eligible for it in future. Her question to you was, could you live or could you pay your fuel bills on that sort of income?
Well, look, it's obviously it's been very challenging for people, especially over recent years, as we've seen energy prices spike in the way that they have. And we're really sorry about the decision on the winter fuel payment. It's not one that we wanted to make, but it's one that we've had to make because the economic inheritance that we found ourselves in was far, far worse than we thought it was going to be. It was worse than the Office for Budget Responsibility understood it to be, or the Institute for Fiscal Studies understood it to be. And we've had to look at how we could make savings in this current financial year. That's a really hard thing for a government to do. It's not future years, it's not future policies, it's in this current financial year. Because if we hadn't have done so, we would have all but likely have seen the markets losing confidence in this country, the costs of borrowing going up, a run on the pound possibly, and the economy crashing. And it would have been pensioners on fixed incomes and the poorest in society who would have ended up paying the highest price for that, as they had done under the last government. So that's why we're taking measures. We're protecting the triple lock, which is going to see the state pension, the real value of the state pension, not the cash value, the real value of the state pension increasing by hundreds, if not thousands of pounds over coming years. We've got other measures like the Warms Home payment, £150 for those in fuel poverty, and other measures that we're trying to do. We've had to mean test the winter fuel payment to make the sums add up.
But is the proposal that the Chancellor put forward before the summer recess, is that set in stone? I.e. there are going to be no changes? You might be aware, for example, that Age UK have put forward a series of proposals, what they say are ameliorations to the scheme that's been put forward that would still protect people at a slightly higher income level. Is the scheme set in stone, or is the government potentially in listening mode to adjust it before the budget?
Well, look, we're always in kind of listening mode, if you like, but the policy is the policy, and that's been set out.
So no changes.
We'll have a big push on getting people onto pension credit, because there are many of those who currently aren't receiving pension credit who are eligible, and that would not just give them the winter fuel payment, but significantly increased income as well. And as I say, there's going to be announcements coming soon about the triple lock and the value of the state pension and what that means. And we are taking immediate steps around the energy market in this country to get bills lower for people in the medium and longer term as well, and setting up GB Energy. And our ambition as a government, we were elected on a mandate of change, is to deliver improved living standards for everybody, especially the poorest in society.
Although you were elected on that basis, and you're going to make the living standards of lots of pensioners worse. But just to be clear, there's no changes.
I don't think in the round that will be the case for people when they take into effect the triple lock and other measures as well.
Well, but just to be clear, so there are no changes. The scheme as proposed is set in stone. There are going to be no changes.
That's right.
Just in terms of the sort of, we take a step back here. I mean, your party campaigned on change and was very clear, from Keir Starmer down, there would be no return to austerity. And yet we can see in the Sunday newspapers this morning, briefing, building on what Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves have said, which is they're going to be, quote unquote, difficult decisions, potentially spending cuts, welfare changes and so on. That is austerity by another name. You did not campaign on it. Where is your legitimacy to implement it?
Look, we're not talking about austerity.
That is austerity. You might not be calling it austerity, but that is austerity.
Austerity was a political choice over a period of time to significantly reduce the size of the state and to make huge cuts that were a choice at that time in order to, as I say, reduce the size of the state.
Why would your... Sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt. Lucy, sorry. Just sorry to interrupt. Just one quick. Why would George Osborne's choices a political choice and yours something that's been forced upon you? The circumstances are the same, according to you.
Because what we're having to look at is to make the current day-to-day spending of things that have already been committed to actually add up. That is very different from taking actually a two-term parliament, but certainly a one-term parliament decision by the Conservative and Lib Dem government at the time to dramatically reduce the size and the reach of the state, the welfare state, the support for the whole state. What we are doing is trying to make the sums add up, if you like, and what we've been left with is a huge legacy of overspend. So commitments that have been made, like your caller just asked about the social care cap, that was a commitment that was made by the government with absolutely no budget line, not a single budget line available for that. They've overspent on the asylum system to the tune of nearly £7 billion. They knew that the public sector pay deals that were sitting on their desk before the election would be honoured by them or any incoming government, and they hadn't set aside any money. The reserves have gone to nothing. So we're having to add up the current year that we're in and the forthcoming years. That is very different from making a big choice to reduce the size of the state by billions and billions of pounds, as that previous government did.
So this is just a one-off. So difficult decisions this year, but after that, no more difficult decisions once you balance the books. That's what you're saying.
Well, we've got to balance the books in this financial year, which is a very difficult thing to do. Yeah. And we've got to balance the books in forthcoming years so that we can meet our fiscal rules. But our fiscal rules are not designed to reduce the size of the state and to bring about austerity, which is what the previous Conservative government did. And I know it's difficult for people to understand, but this is not austerity.
Well, I mean, austerity basically means spending cuts, welfare cuts, and so on. So I think that you might not call it that.
It's an overarching strategy, but that's an overarching strategy.
Well, George Osborne and others would have disagreed with that. But anyway, let's leave that to
Well, they wouldn't, actually. I don't think they would have done.
Well, they always said that there was not about a political strategy to reduce the size of the state. But anyway, let's leave that to one side. In terms of looking ahead to that budget, previously, of course, you had said, and your party went into the election saying you didn't want to increase taxes on working people. Just to be clear, would fuel duty be, in your view, an increase in taxes on working people, an increase in fuel duty?
Well, we said that we're not going to increase VAT, national insurance and income tax. We've been really clear about that. They're the big tax burdens faced by working people. I'm not going to speculate about the budget. You wouldn't expect me to do so. And actually, I'm not party to those conversations. They are discussions that will be being carried out by the Treasury, who are going to be looking at how they can do what we said we would do in this election, how we will get growth back into the economy, not just for its sake, but to ensure that we really do increase the living standards of every part of the country, every community, every person in this country, how we can get those waiting lists down. Understood. Because people are lingering for years now. Over 7 million people on waiting lists for the NHS. We are going to deliver on the manifesto commitments that we were given, and the Chancellor will have a budget designed to do that.
Understood. You will be aware, of course, about your new parliamentary colleague, Jaz Atwell, the new MP for Ilford South. He's had to say that he's shocked and profoundly sorry after the BBC revealed that he rented flats that had black mould and ant infestations, among other things. He's now Parliament's biggest buy-to-let landlord. Will there be an investigation into him?
Well, look, I'll take at face value what he said, and he's got to put that right, because it's completely unacceptable that people in the private rented sector should be living with infestations, should be living with mould, and should be living with poor quality housing. And that's why we've got a big renters reform bill coming very soon to Parliament, a significantly strengthened set of measures, probably the once in a generation opportunity to really strengthen the rights of tenants in the private rented sector. And that's going to be around security of tenure. That's going to be around the standards and making sure that infestations and mould, there's a legal obligation to remove those and to make sure that properties don't have those. Sure. The ending of no-fault evictions, and the ending of the sort of bidding wars where price hikes come and people don't feel they can make complaints because otherwise they're going to get evicted. This is going to be a huge piece of legislation. Understood. Which every Labour MP will will be supporting when it goes through Parliament.
But don't you think it would send a rather powerful message, given that in your manifesto you yourself had a commitment to, quote, prevent private renters being exploited and discriminated against by bad landlords? Don't you think that it would send a rather powerful message if at the very least you were to suspend the whip pending an investigation into this new MP?
Well, look, what I do know is that he has taken immediate action. That is what I would expect from any responsible landlord.
If this were a Tory MP,
he's reimbursing tenants, and he's going to take that action, and he will be judged on that by his tenants and by the rest of us. But I want to ensure that from a policy perspective, I mean, let's just be absolutely clear about this. We are not in hock to the sort of landlord lobby here. Far from it. We have worked at pace over the summer to bring forward a really tough set of strengthened measures. It'll be the first time, I think, in my lifetime that there will be a new bill, a new piece of legislation giving tenants rights in the private rental sector, long overdue. And it is going to be a very big, powerful bill that will ensure that tenants right across the country don't live in poor quality, insecure, private rented properties.
Lucy, he was literally on the council and introduced a set of standards that all buy-to-let landlords in his council had to obey, and he himself did not obey it. Now, do you not think that is the height of hypocrisy? And the Labour Party, if this were the Conservative Party, you'd be slamming this guy. You'd be absolutely slamming him. And yeah, you are saying, oh no, it's not a huge deal. He's going to just compensate them, but we're just going on as normal. Don't you think it would send a message to buy-to-let landlords who are ripping people off that you, the Labour Party, do not tolerate standards like this, not least from your own MP?
Well, I'm certainly not saying it's okay. And I've just made absolutely clear, we don't tolerate standards like that.
Then punish him then.
That's why, hang on a minute. That's why we are legislating with tough measures to tackle these issues, to give tenants those rights. So they don't have to go to the BBC or to anybody else, whether it's a Labour MP or any other landlord. They will have real rights embedded in law, and there'll be legislation and new enforcement and new licensing schemes to back that up. It is not okay. Absolutely not okay. What I am saying is that this particular person in question has taken quick action. He was furious about that. I will take him at his word on that for now, but he has to put that right. And in terms of I think the licensing scheme, there's some transition to a new scheme or something is my understanding of it. But look, let's be clear. As a Labour government, as a Labour Party, we stand firmly behind the rights of tenants in the private rented sector to live in a safe, in a high quality, in a secure private rented property. And landlords are being put on watch about that, and the legislation coming forward will make that happen.